Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We have just 3 weeks left in the college football regular season, and things are certainly starting to heat up. Week 11 provides a great slate of games, but not nearly as great as Week 10, although we may be able to see a couple surprises and a handful of upsets this week. And we're going to kick things off with our 5 biggest games of Week 11, including 2 huge Big Ten matchups, starting off with number 10, Ohio State, and number 18, Michigan State. And this game could potentially determine who wins the Big Ten East, and this game doesn't even involve the division leader as of right now with the Michigan Wolverines. And we'll just kind of break down both teams real quick. Ohio State coming off a very concerning win over Nebraska, 36-31, a game where Dwayne Haskins had another solid performance, a little over 200 yards once again, 2 touchdowns, but J.K. Dobbins was the one that stole the show with 163 yards on the ground and 3 total touchdowns, and that was huge for the Buckeyes, who had kind of lost their sense of a running game. It hadn't had much of a running game in the past couple of weeks, and J.K. Dobbins finally picked up the slack there. Michigan State has been one of those teams that's been so inconsistent, back and forth, losing games they shouldn't lose to, and then winning games that they shouldn't win. And they're sitting at number 18 right now, and this game has been known to have some pretty wild finishes and a good history. But last year, Ohio State took care of the Spartans in dominating fashion. I think it was like 48-3, something along those lines. It was an absolute blowout and a game that we were not expecting it to be. Michigan State was a trendy pick in that game. They're also the trendy pick in this game. Is there a chance that the Spartans, who have been so inconsistent all year long, could upset the Buckeyes and absolutely ruin their college football playoff hopes, as they're sitting at number 10 right now? They're certainly on the way outside looking in, but there is that chance. And I'm going to say no. I think Ohio State's going to get the win here. But listen to these standings real quick. Michigan sits at 6-0 in the Big Ten East right now, followed by Ohio State at 5-1. Michigan State at 4-2. Michigan's going to win their next 2 games against Rutgers and Indiana. That means when they square off against Ohio State in the season finale, they will be 8-0 in conference play. If Ohio State were to lose this game, they would drop to 5-2 in conference play. Michigan State would improve to 5-2 in conference play. And after that, even if Ohio State were to win the next game and sit at 6-2, it would be all over. Michigan would have an 8-0 to a 6-2 advantage, and that game would just be a chance for Ohio State to play spoiler against the Wolverines. So if Michigan State were to win this game, Michigan practically locks up the East, assuming they don't stumble against Rutgers or Indiana, which I don't think will happen. So this game is huge for Michigan. Certainly going to be pulling for their rival in Michigan State, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to have a huge showdown in a couple weeks between the Wolverines and the Buckeyes. Ohio State gets the win in what will be a close one, but they're still going to get the win. Wisconsin, number 20, Penn State. This is one of those games, every week we have our ranked versus ranked matchups up here. Those are by far the biggest games of the week. And then when we don't have enough of those, we don't have 5 or 6 of those games I can put up here, I try to find the one that's going to have the biggest implications, whether it's now on the national stage or in conference stage. And that's the case with this Wisconsin-Penn State game, because at first glance you're going to say Wisconsin's been a major disappointment. Why is this a big deal? Penn State's been a major disappointment. Somehow they're still ranked 20th, even though they don't deserve to be. So why is this game up here? Well, this game's still big for Wisconsin because they're still in the hunt for the Big Ten West. Northwestern leads that division right now with a 5-1 conference record, followed by Wisconsin with a 4-2 conference record, and then Purdue tied with them with a 4-2 conference record. And Wisconsin and the Boilermakers have yet to play this season. So if Wisconsin were able to go on the road and upset Penn State, which is possible, assuming Alex Hornibrook plays, of course, then they're still in the hunt for this Big Ten West championship right there, and a chance to face off against Ohio State or Michigan or someone there, and once again play spoiler, because neither of these 2 schools are in a position to make the college football playoff. They're just playing for pride right now in a Big Ten championship, and really Penn State's out of that conversation right now. So this game is huge for Wisconsin, but I don't think they're going to be able to go on the road and get the win over a Nittany Lions team who just got embarrassed last week to the Wolverines, 42-7. So will James Franklin have his troops rallied? Still have that morale up, a chance to still play spoiler for their foes in the Big Ten, still have a chance to play for a solid bowl game? That's going to be the million-dollar question. But with it being at home and with James Franklin being the coach that I know he is, I don't think he's going to let this one slide. They're going to get the win over the Badgers. And I almost put, this is going to be a 2-parter, I almost put another huge Big Ten matchup here. It's a huge weekend for the Big Ten. Northwestern at number 21, Iowa. I put that one up there, or I'm going to mention that game because, as I mentioned, Iowa's practically out of the Big Ten title race, out of the Big Ten West title race here because of that loss that they just got handed to against Purdue this past weekend. But Northwestern is 5-1. So if they were to lose this game on the road, which we all know Kinnick Stadium's a very difficult place to play, then the West is totally up for grabs between Northwestern, Wisconsin, Purdue, and maybe a very small chance for the Hawkeyes. So that game, huge for the Wildcats. Make sure, so if you're a Big Ten fan, you're going to want to keep an eye on those 3 games I just mentioned right there, because it's going to really shape who could potentially be playing for the Big Ten championship game in December. Number 16, Mississippi State at number 1, Alabama. As we all know, Alabama should take care of this game. If it was in Starkville, I might be leaning a little bit towards the Bulldogs' way, or not necessarily leaning towards their way, but maybe wanting to pull the trendy upset pick. It's just not going to happen here in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Alabama's still a 24-point favorite. I'm excited to see the quarterback battle. We've seen a reemergence of Nick Fitzgerald. Had a horrible showing against LSU in that very solid defense, but has shown some poise and so been able to rebound in the past couple weeks. Tua Tagovailoa went up against that same LSU defense this past weekend, number 3 in the country, in Death Valley at night, and still threw for 2 touchdowns, almost 300 yards, and threw his first interception of the season. But does that even matter when you win the game 29-0? It absolutely does not. So I'm still excited to see Fitzgerald go up against Tua Tagovailoa. I think we can see some good stats go up there. But the underlying story here, something that no one's talking about, is the fact this game could be fairly low scoring and a very strong defensive battle. Over the course of this season, Mississippi State is only allowing 12.3 points per game. Alabama is allowing 14.1 points per game. And I know Mississippi State has yet to face Tua. I get that. But there's a chance this game could be very low scoring and back and forth for a little while, but in the end, the Tide, as they always do, will pull away. I don't see any team in the country right now that can beat Alabama the way they are playing. But Alabama should get the win, but still a very big SEC matchup there. Another huge one between number 24 Auburn and number 5 Georgia. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's November, anything can happen, and when you throw a rivalry game on top of that, you know anything is possible. Well, Auburn, a team that I mentioned in our press video about, in our college football playoff rankings video, I said they probably shouldn't be ranked. Why are they ranked? They said A&M last week in a thrilling comeback fashion. I get that, but they should not be ranked 24th, and I think they do that only because it makes this thing look a little more appealing going up against a big-time rival. Anytime you can have a ranked versus ranked matchups is better than one highly ranked team and one unranked team. It just looks more appealing to the eye, and I disagree with that. I think it's wrong for them to do that, but they did it anyways. Georgia should run away with this game. They're 14-point favorites, but I mentioned that thing about rivalry games because you never know what can happen. If people play completely different, even if Auburn was winless, they play different when they're going up against one of their big rivals. Both these schools have won back-to-back games after tough losses. Auburn losing to Tennessee a few weeks ago, Georgia losing by 20 to LSU a few weeks ago, the same week actually, that same day. So both have won 2 straight games after that. Georgia, though, much bigger wins against Florida and Kentucky, solidifying themselves a spot in the SEC championship game against Alabama. If Georgia were to lose this game to Auburn, the SEC championship game would lose a lot of its fire, a lot of its intensity, and a lot of the hype that we have around it right now. It would be a rematch of the national championship game, sure, but Georgia, if they were to lose to Auburn, is out of the playoff race 100%. Even if they were to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game, I think they are out of the college football playoff race. But I don't think they're going to have to worry about that. I think they'll take care of Gus Malzahn, Auburn, who have struggled mightily despite winning back-to-back games. Despite beating Texas A&M, they have still struggled a lot here. And there's a chance that Auburn could finish the season with 5 losses, which is a horrible year and what was supposed to be one where they were supposed to compete against Alabama in the SEC West. Closing things out, number 2 Clemson at number 17 Boston College. Another one of these games where you could lean towards Boston College's way to try to pull the trendy upset pick. It's not going to happen, though. We're not making any prediction changes on this board, although we might later on, so make sure you check Twitter for that. But this game, you know, last week we said that LSU maybe was Alabama's toughest test. We said maybe this is going to be the toughest test for the Tide by far. And I think this is going to be the case for Clemson. I think this is Clemson's toughest test they've had all season. This is a very different Boston College team than we've seen in years past. Without a doubt, College game day is going to be there. It's going to make that environment even more electric. They don't go to Boston College very often. We know that. And this, like I said, a very different Boston College team. But here's the problem. Clemson, over their last 4 games, has won by an average of 51 points. They have won their games by an average of 51 points over the past 4 weeks, winning by 61, 49, 34, and 60. It's not good. That's very impressive for Clemson, but not good news for Boston College, who has a decent offense led by Anthony Brown at quarterback and A.J. Dillon at running back. But still, you're going up against a very solid Clemson team, and like I said, I don't think anybody can beat Alabama, but if there's one team that I think could, it is absolutely going to be Clemson. So I'm picking the Tigers in this one, but this game is going to be closer than many expect because these two teams are very, very similar. Their style of play is very similar. Their stats are very similar. I mean, the stats for Trevor Lawrence and Anthony Brown at quarterback are practically identical. It's insane how very similar those two quarterbacks are. Same for Travis Etienne with Clemson and A.J. Dillon with Boston College. This is going to be a very close game, a very exciting game. In the end, Clemson's going to get the job done, take care of business. Boston College should remain in the rankings and still have a chance for a very, very solid bowl game. Chance to finish 8-4 or 9-3, somewhere around there. Very solid year for Steve Addazio and his squad. So those are our top 5 games for Week 11. As I said, the slate's not as great as Week 10, but maybe we can see some surprises. Maybe we can see some things that will throw the playoff committee into a loop, into a tailspin, and make this college football season even better as it already has been. Our Heisman Watch, as you notice, we only have 3 players up here now. We've been having 4 for the past couple of weeks. We've only got 3. That's because I believe Dwayne Haskins is out of the Heisman race. Sure, he had a good, decent performance against Nebraska. As I said, threw for over 200 yards, maybe over 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw a pick, and still got the win. But J.K. Dobbins picked up a lot of slack there. Yes, Dwayne Haskins was throwing for over 400 yards for multiple games at a time. Get that too. But hear me out. Tua Tagovailoa, I don't even know where we're still ranking the Heisman guys, to be honest with you, because we know Tagovailoa's got this thing in the bag. Unless he just tanks over these next couple of weeks against Auburn, against Mississippi State, and so forth, or maybe he gets hurt, which I doubt that. He's got this thing in the bag. I've never seen a quarterback put up these type of stats before, and he's just a sophomore. We have to keep that in mind. Tagovailoa, by far the heavy favorite. We've got Kyler Murray right behind him, who this past weekend against Texas Tech, a come-from-behind victory against Texas Tech, threw for 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, rushed for 100 yards, had a rushing touchdown, but did throw 2 early interceptions that put Oklahoma down early, 14-0. However, resiliency and the skill paid off, won that game 51-46. So that's why I've got Kyler Murray there. You could make the case that Will Grier should jump Kyler Murray. He's number 3 right now. Some people even made the case that said Will Grier shouldn't even be in Heisman conversation. And those people that say that don't know what they're talking about, because he just threw for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns on the road at Texas, and one of the gutsiest performances you'll ever see. West Virginia had their season on the line, their Big 12 championship hopes on the line, their playoff hopes on the line. Beautiful 33-yard touchdown pass with 16 seconds remaining, and then going for 2 to get the win, and Will Grier ran that in himself. Certainly deserves to be up here. He is certainly in my top 3. I don't know if Murray or Grier will be able to jump Tagovailoa. Something crazy is going to have to happen, but they certainly deserve an invitation to the ceremony without a doubt. And these rankings could switch. Assuming these guys continue to play well, Murray and Grier are going to go up against each other in the season finale. That's the game's at West Virginia, so I cannot wait for that. If you love offense, that's going to be the game for you. So whoever outplays each other in that game will probably swap spots there unless something happens over these next 2 weeks to make me say otherwise. So those are our top 3 guys in the Heisman right now, but as we all know, it's Tagovailoa is to lose, and I expect we'll be hearing his name called in December without a doubt. No doubt in my mind. But regardless, we're still going to rank them. We're going to break down the stats. It's fun. It's important. And that's what we're doing. So our top 5 biggest games for Week 11. It's going to be another great week of college football. Soak it all in because we are running out of time. However, there's still so much left to play for. And I just can't wait to get it all started. Things kick off this Thursday night with Wake Forest and North Carolina State, and continuing all the way through late Saturday night. So as always, go check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, and always here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.